I just wanted to talk to a couple of you. My name is John Paul Rice, for the people watching that may not know who I am. My friends know me. I'm an independent film producer. I've been in Hollywood for about 20 years. I started my film career in Remember the Titans. Worked at Senator International, later Mandate Pictures, under the producers who did Juno, The Grudge, Harold and Kumar, Stranger Than Fiction, and eventually The Hunger Games when they went back into Lionsgate. The reason I wanted to talk to everybody here today is because over the course of the last week or two, we have found out without notification that Amazon.com, for which we have 6 of our movies on there, our film, A Child's Voice, which has been on there for over a year and a half in the UK, the United States, and now 70 other countries, was suddenly, without notification, removed entirely from their platform. They unpublished it. And Amazon came back to us. They gave us a very standard corporate non-committal response that said, we make a lot of changes, we do this and that and the other, we judge things based on performance. But they couldn't give us a very specific answer, and we all know what the answer is. What our movie did before Epstein was known about in the public, and before Maxwell was known about in the public, is we found a network of pedophiles among a global network of people who were selling kids back and forth to each other, trading them like candy. It goes right in through Hollywood. If you look at the Daily Beast article, you'll see that Jeffrey Epstein had a pipeline right into Hollywood through Harvey Weinstein. That was last year. I've done a lot of deep dives and research into this, and there is a very satanic element to it, for which we incorporated it into our movie. Our movie is a feature film. We went viral with it on Twitter the other day, and it exploded, because we still have one platform left here in the United States, and that's Vimeo.com on demand. What I would like everybody to do is, more importantly, I don't need to get back on Amazon. I already know what they're going to do, and they've got a stack of lawyers. But we're looking for alternative platforms where we can release this movie and get it out to as many people as possible. Our movie is not a documentary, it's a feature film. And we did this based on all the evidence and the facts that we had learned and incorporated into a story that you get involved through the character's journey. Their road to redemption is through love. And this issue of human trafficking, which many people are waking up to today for a variety of reasons, is the issue that defines all of us in our time. The media corporations, the most powerful 6 corporations in the land, in the world for that matter, are all implicated in human trafficking of kids. And I would point to anybody who wants to know more about that to look at Project Veritas and the leak disclosure of off-air footage of Amy Robach from ABC News when she found out and was discussing in 2016 that they had everything from Virginia Giuffre, all of it. Everybody who was involved, they had all the evidence. Their own lawyers said that when all is said and done, Jeffrey Epstein will go down as one of the most prolific pedophiles in all of history, and they buried that story to have access to the royal family, for which we now know Prince Andrew was implicated. They did not have any remorse for the victims in that video. This is a bigger problem because most people know in that world, and the world that I come from in Hollywood, that it is a hidden layer that everybody knows is there. When the Me Too movement started in 2017, I reached out to several of my female actress friends who were prominent in LA. You would know them by name. Many of them you would know by just their look, because you go, oh, that was her in that movie or that movie. And I said, well, what about the children? What about the children? And the response was, we know. But they were silent on it. And it destroyed me, because it destroyed my illusion of what rights, human rights were, children's rights were. This is a child abuse system that we have been living in for a very long time, and it's been allowed to go on. And I will not be silent about this, because it affects every single one of us. The people on television who smile at you, who tell you stories, who give you news, are the ones who hide all of this from us. They are not talking about the real issues. They are distracting you with division issues This is a unification issue. When the Maxwell files came out 48 hours ago, I went on MSNBC, I went on CNN.com, and I looked at every single one of their headlines, and there was no mention of it whatsoever. They were talking about John Lewis's funeral. They were talking about Obama versus Trump, all of the bullshit that you and I hear every single day. And it doesn't matter what side of the political equation you're on this. This is a child issue. This is a human issue. This is not a political issue. It has nothing to do with left versus right, Democrat versus Republican, liberal versus conservative, or anything you are or you identify with as in between.
Okay, so I came upon this video last week because everyone's like hyper pumped and freaked out and about the Epstein files and how there's both Democrats and Republicans showing up a lot in the Epstein files. I'm just saying, and also how there's like spiritual teachers showing up in Epstein files, and there's like doctors that, you know, well-known public figures showing up a lot. And I don't know. A lot of people are projecting onto a lot of these public figures showing up in Epstein files it's like the kind of sordid activity that Epstein was up to. They're projecting that onto these people, which, again, we don't know how much, if they were involved in all the kind of crazy shit going on. But that being said, it just points out that a lot of the issues that we're facing are beyond politics. And I wanted to make this video because I just did a video recently about a friend who attacked me for having a different political opinion than her, and trying to bring nuance into a conversation, right? But I do, and now she's vilified me as this horrible person because I had a different opinion than her. And I think that's the reason I'm making this video, is I think that's where they want us to be. They want us to be divided. Like people in power, like if you divide people, that's how you have the most capacity to control and manipulate people. And so I really feel like people need to start and I think a lot of people start questioning what's happening and questioning the information they're getting. Like any video you see, whether it's from this channel or any other channel, everything's being so manipulated now that we can't even tell our assholes from our mouths anymore, okay? We don't know what the fuck's going on. We're being manipulated and gaslit left and right. And the reason I resonated with this guy's video, again, this whole video could be another form of manipulation. We don't even know what kind of AI content is out there. I don't even trust anything I see anymore because everything's whatever. But this guy, if it is real, which I did look up the content, and it said it was real. And I'm hearing it, and you're hearing it a lot from a lot of people in the movie industry about the kind of dark side of the movie industry and how there's just how they've witnessed how power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I mean, they're witnessing this and the bizarre behaviors and like weird like secret societies and weird like dark shit that's going on, and I don't know, but this video resonated with me because it feels like, again, I have to take everything with a grain of salt, but I feel like we're being manipulated, and we're being manipulated to be divided. And so, again, my friend shut me off, cut off all conversation. I'm posting a link to the video at the end of the video if you want to listen to that. But I think that's where they want us. They want us divided, divide and conquer. And the more that we're divided and not unifying our knowledge bases and the information that we have, or being able to discuss topics without just calling each other names and vilifying each other, the more they have control of us, you know? And that's where I resonated with this video, because I feel like he's making a point that a lot of the issues that we're facing are beyond politics, you know? I mean, it's getting so crazy now that if you say hello instead of hi, someone's going to attack you. You didn't say hello. You said hi, you fucking fascist. I mean, shit's getting that crazy, dude. Seriously. But I feel like they're placating our fragile egos in order to gain control and power, or maintain control and power, and keep on doing sordid, messed up shit, you know, and so that they can just continue to do what they do unabated while we're just fighting each other. Like, I don't know, I would just say, just start questioning everything you're seeing, questioning anything that promotes division, because the more divisive things are, the more the more manipulation can be used against us. Because I feel like a lot of the things that we're facing currently, we do need to be unified on. And this guy's talking about one particular topic, which is child trafficking, and that is a unifying issue, because I don't feel like creepy pedophiles and these people that are trafficking people are targeting whether someone's a Democrat or a Republican. They're targeting any vulnerable child, okay? There's like female apartheid issues that are happening across the globe. No one's unifying on that. We're just arguing each other about some stupid ass bullshit. I'm just saying, okay? I don't know. I just really feel like people need to start realizing that they're being manipulated and gaslit.
These people don't give a shit about anybody, and they get up there and they smile in front of you, and they are infiltrated throughout all of our institutions, including government. They own the politicians, right and left. What we are going to find out very soon is that there aren't Democrats and Republicans in the United States government. There's a unified cabal of controlled people who serve these powers, and they keep the theater going for you and I to run back and forth and vote every 4 years. I have watched horror story after horror story, and I promise you this is true. Go on YouTube and find Anake Lucas, who was a child sex slave at 6 years old for the elite. And she will describe to you, she also gave a TED Talk on this, but this was in 2016. She talked about the block of wood that she saw with the stains of blood of children on it. The predators are not just raping and having sex and torturing and beating these kids. They're murdering them for pleasure. This is not a pedophile. These are psychopaths. And they have no remorse whatsoever in what they're doing. What we need to do in this world is unify together to protect all life on this planet and the sacredness of children. Because if we are going to make it through this time with all the upheavals that are going to come, socioeconomic, racial, however you want to measure it, this is the unifying issue that the establishment will not give you a movement for. You're going to have to do it on your own. They will give you the Me Too movement because they can make it about hatred of men and weaponize it and make it political. They'll give you the Black Lives Matter movement because they can weaponize it and make it political. They can have Colin Kaepernick take a knee, divide the country, and he walks away with a check from Nike at a tens of millions of dollars NFL star level deal. All of these people who get up and say that we live in an oppressive system are taking checks from white men who are paying them.
This bitch is calling some shit out, okay? I mean, and that's the thing he's pointing to, I feel like also, is not only are we being distracted from real issues that all of us are facing mutually, okay? He's also pointing to the fact that things are much more complicated and nuanced than we want to acknowledge, you know? Granted, a lot of people thought, like, say, for example, Kaepernick was unpatriotic for bending the knee. Some people can perceive it as patriotic because criticism doesn't necessarily mean unpatriotic, you know. For me, him bending the knee was pointing to the fact that there's ways that our great country can improve. Some other people just saw it as unpatriotic, right? So it's all a matter of perspective. So that's one thing. Two, he was benefiting from corporate sponsorship, and like he said, like Nike, you know, who has slave labor camps, you know, but gave him a whole check for all this money, you know, even though he was, so things are just really complicated and crazy. Like, and even the Black Lives Matter, for example, you get a whole bunch of like entitled, like white liberals who don't have no idea what it's like to be a person of color. They can't even conceive of it, because you can't really until you experience it directly, right? I do think white people that have either married or given birth to black kids can have an idea. But if you're not really directly experiencing it, you just have no clue, right? But they put their Black Lives Matter signs out in their yard, and that makes them a good person, right? But But then they'll clutch their purse if a black person walks past. Like, you know, like I said, that happened with my dad, where this really entitled, privileged white woman had bumper stickers all over her car, save this, save that, but called the cops on my African-American father for walking through his yard. You know, so you get that. You get all kinds. Even my own mother, who married a black man, okay, and dealt with all the crazy ass shit, okay, she would have people come up to her and pour hot water, just hot coffee, when she'd be in a restaurant with my dad, because they were married in the 70s, right? And they would pour hot coffee on her lap for being with my dad. Like, she had to deal with that shit. But even in that case, my mom has prejudiced views. Like, there's a lot of people in my white family who have prejudiced, racist views, right? So everything is really complicated and nuanced, and, you know, and I think they just want to, and like really much more, I feel like if we can't come together to discuss things and discuss the difficult, nuanced, complicated, multifaceted perspectives with every single topic that's going down, if we can't discuss that amongst each other to get to the bottom line of things, and like to kind of realize that things are just not so simple and black and white. They just really aren't. They're just going to keep us divided, keep us manipulated and controlled, you know, dupe us left and right, you know, make us believe one thing while something else is happening. Increasingly isolating us further and further, because we can't talk to each other, because without fear of being someone going ballistic on you, you know. You know, all these people, all my friends, I told them about my one friend who went ballistic and batshit crazy on me. They're like, just don't talk about politics, don't talk about this and that. That's exactly what they want. They want us not talking about shit. That's the thing you have to realize. That's exactly what the fuck the powers that be that are running amok and just greed, you know, at all costs, greed and profit, you know, having us work wages that just aren't even livable, having us be duped by all this kind of stuff that's going down in the public domain, that making us doubt our own perceptions, making us fight amongst each other. That's exactly where they want us, I think, you know. And I feel like we should be leaning into differences, leaning into different opinions, trying to learn from them, trying to not be afraid to talk to each other, even if it threatens our own ego structure. Because I feel like that's the only way to solve a lot of the issues that we're facing. And another thing is that a lot of the issues that we're facing require both conservative and liberal approaches to solve the problem, right? I mean, to vilify one or the other is unproductive and inefficient. A lot of the problems that all of us are facing mutually need both at the same time, conservative and liberal solutions, right? And so just, like, and my friend was like, he was talking about concentration camps in China. My friend she's getting some news feed, the one that hit me. She's in an algorithmic bubble that's saying that Trump is Hitler and ISIS Gestapo, and they're sending the illegal immigrants into concentration camps. I feel like a lot of times what people also do, the left is particularly good at this, but I'm sure the right does it as well, but they redefine language or they manipulate language in order to make themselves right. Not about solving problems, but just to make themselves right and win arguments, right? So the left is like, oh, concentration camps. Now, poorly run and inefficient detention centers and internment centers, okay, as much as they might be problematic and not solving the problem, right, and making things worse, okay, is different than a concentration camp. Now, from what I've understand, and people have different understandings of these words too, which makes everything even more complicated, concentration camps are where they're literally slaughtering people and dumping them in human mass graves. Okay, that's what the fuck was going on in these concentration camps, okay? Not like poor living conditions and people not being able to bathe or being properly fed. I mean, granted, that's horrible and those are human rights violations, okay? But concentration camps, where they're just like gunning people down, gassing them in mass, making rugs out of their hair, okay? That's a totally different ballgame, but they're using that word, which is a really charged word, in order to, I feel like, manipulate and dominate the conversation. I feel like they're more about winning the argument as opposed to what's the solution, okay? And I feel like the only way to come together to solve problems is we have to fucking talk with each other. It's not even sustainable to be afraid to talk to people. That's not a sustainable model. We're social creatures. Isolation only can garner more if you isolate people and make them desperate and make them like just lost in their own thoughts or whatever algorithmic bubbles they get caught up in and rabbit holes they go down. That makes them much more much more able to be manipulated and controlled. There's all this divisiveness in the whole dating scene as well. Like, men and women need to come together. Black and white we need to come together. Republican and Democrat, we all need to motherfucking work together, because I feel like we're just being gaslit and manipulated, divide and conquer. I think everyone thinks they're patriotic, but they're letting these other countries, who knows how much of it's infiltrated propaganda, feeding. I feel like there's motherfuckers that are doing all this shit. They're laughing at how retarded we are. They're manipulating us, gaslighting us, freaking having us divided, and they're fucking laughing. And they're like, look at that big empire fall. Look at those dumb, fat, retarded Americans. I wouldn't even be so fucking surprised if some shit like that's going down, right? Look, let's get them all hooked on Ozempic and fuck up their metabolic systems, and let's, program them to fucking hate each other. I mean, let's just fucking like divide and fucking conquer. And all these like students that are just attacking each other and from these quote unquote prestigious institutions who are not teaching critical thinking, and just attack and yell at someone because they've got a different opinion. Ooh, that's a top-notch education there, I don't know. I've as a mixed race person, I've been living the hypocrisy of all the shit my whole life. I'm just saying, from both sides, people say black people can't be racist, but they can, because I've seen it. Maybe they don't have the power to implement shit, but that doesn't mean they can't be racist. They can. They're racist amongst each other. All the divisiveness, even within the African American community, about skin color and hair texture and speaking proper English or not. I mean, I have family members that are African American and they get vilified because they speak proper English. You know, they're called, oh, you're trying to be white. You know, all this kind of bullshit, you know? All I know is I don't think divisiveness solves problems. If anything, it just exacerbates problems and doesn't solve them. Like my friend hitting me, she's righteous now. She's the good person. She's on the side of righteousness, okay? Good for her. But did it solve the problem? So here's yet another topic, which I'm not going to obviously play the whole video because the video is really long, about another topic that is beyond political affiliation. And it's something that we all face and we all have to come together to find a common solution to, which is the addiction to our phones, the advent of the misappropriation of AI, and all of the subsequent issues that we all face because of this. Like, I mean, I talked about in other videos, like how my ex-husband had porn addiction problems, right? And porn addiction is a huge problem now, especially amongst younger generations because of the advent of internet and the easy accessibility to it and how they use it to hijack people's addictive brain centers, right? I felt like, for me personally, it was deleterious to my marriage, and I feel like it's really negatively impacting relationships, and that's just with regular ass porn, let alone when AI porn comes in on the scene, right? But you know, again, this podcast was talking about the addictive quality of our phone and internet and social media usage, and how they've literally programmed these things to be addictive. And a lot of these entitled like technocrats don't even let their own kids use it because they know how damaging it is, but they get to live off the benefits of it damaging us. You know, again, it's another issue that we all need to come together on. There's just so many issues that we all need to come together on.
You are actively rewiring your brain for the worst by engaging with social media, high volume, quick videos.
And the social media executives don't let their kids use this stuff because they designed it to be addictive. And they know that millions and millions of kids have been cyberbullied, sextorted, many have committed suicide. So I'm getting angry.
And then from the medical perspective, it's rewiring your body, increasing your risk of heart disease and PTSD.
We've moved too far into the virtual world and the results are catastrophic.
People are spending roughly about 6.5 hours a day on their phones. What do we do about this?
Well, here's the amazing thing. We actually can control our fate. So
we are joined by a social psychologist and a Harvard physician
to dive into the technology addiction and brain rot crisis billions are facing worldwide,
and how we can counter its devastating mental health effects.
you have to reclaim your attention, because without the ability to pay attention for several minutes at a time, we're seeing the destruction of human potential, the human relationships, the connection.
So I was at a stoplight and I saw this flag blowing in the wind, so I recorded it because I thought it looked so, it's like looping right now, but I saw it and it looked so majestic and patriotic, and so I recorded it. And I don't know, it just made me think about like the intention of the founding fathers, you know, and the highest aspirations of our country, and that we're letting them go to shit by fighting each other, you know, because we're, no matter what side of the political spectrum on, we're all Americans. And I really feel like, you know, there's a lot of people say, you know, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, but that's been one of the founding principles of our nation, is that we're allowed to have practice different religions, and we're allowed to have freedom of speech. And I feel like we're losing that in divisiveness, and all because we need to be right, you know. And the thing is, it's like, you know, people say don't talk about these certain politics or religion, but politics and religion are being overlaid onto everything, that aren't even related to politics or religion, you know, so that it makes it impossible to even avoid it in the first place. Like when I went to my friend and she started talking about this shit, I didn't bring it up, you know? And it's like to go around agreeing with everyone, yes, you're right, yes. I mean, not to be able to have nuanced conversations about shit. I don't really feel like that's realistic or sustainable. And the less information we share amongst each other, it makes us more manipulated and controlled. So like, we can't even avoid it, even if we want to. Even if you say to try to avoid it, don't talk about it. It's like unavoidable. People project their religious views or their political views onto everything, you know, and it affects their entire perception, you know. So how do we avoid it even? It's just not even realistic. The only way I feel like to deal with it is to be able to not take ourselves seriously, hold our opinions lightly, and know that depending on the circumstances, we could be right or we could be wrong, and so could the other person. And I don't know. So that was one issue, and like there's a lot of current like political thing about pretty much hating white people essentially. You know, like I don't feel like the backlash to racism and oppression is creating another system of racism and oppression. Like, well, let's just hate whitey. Like, I can't hate whitey. I'm half white myself. I've got white men in my family. I love my brother. I love my nephews. I've got 2 nephews, and I've got I don't know. I didn't know my white grandfather, but I've got uncles that I love. You know, I've got white men that I love. How are people hating? And a lot of times the people that hate the white men are white women. Like they're like I don't really see how hating men is the solution to the problem either. I don't feel like hating anybody, you know. I don't know. That's another issue. Like I feel like people, you know, we're not solving the problem by hating people.